Welcome to the Mike and Doug Show. I'm Doug. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Doug.
Holy cow, once again, you've done it. You answered my questions that I didn't even have to ask. I kept wondering, Truth Social, is that a scam? What's going on there? What about the Trump media company? And where did he get the money to do that? And is this like one of those DARPA venture capitalist things where the Highland Forums steals the patents and steals the stuff and then, sells them to, and then it's all insider and the IPO opens and they jump out and you're like, well, let me research that. And what you found
Pretty
out,
much.
I left it at the deepest level I could go, which is stage one. What's that called? The Digital World Acquisition Corp. It had to go 8 layers down before you found out the
Uh,
truth. Can you share it with us?
Correction, 17 layers.
Oh, since last I looked, there's
Yeah,
9 new layers.
right. We were looking at all the relationships, the interlocking relationships. We have to credit certain lawmakers and investigators going all the way back to the late 1800s for the term interlocked, because they started seeing what these British bad boys were up to in the banks uh, way back then, and all through the 1900s, various ones of our legislators, and mostly congressmen, but a few senators, started identifying this as a threat to the republic, in that being interlocked relationships of insiders affiliated with the banking system. And that's
Insider
what we
trading.
see. Yeah, definitely insider trading, but
Rico.
it's more than that, because that gets at just the racketeering element of it. But in this case, we're talking about what I think we need to start calling economic espionage by the British.
Oh, that's right. I looked at your second or third level of this that you sent over, and I'm going, how many different names can they come up with for the same company? It's
A
unbelievable. You've
lot.
done this before, but I think you said the other day to me that this even outdoes Jeffrey Patty and
Yeah.
those kind of interlocked
This is up with
directorships.
Lord Mark Malloch Brown.
Oh, well, and he's the control device for all elections around the world.
Yep.
So, okay, here now we didn't know. Everybody's out there, and here's what they would say: who's ever gone onto Truth Social? Who cares? So what? He's doing a IPO. Who cares? It's not going to make any money. It's going to be a failure. And yet somehow he gets this phenomenal amount, which I don't understand these things. Phenomenal amount of money, gets backed, gets these little clauses built into it so that he can jump out pretty quickly and just basically brand it with his name. And they predicted this from the first. And I said to you, I don't understand this at all. They said if Trump creates Truth Social and it goes public, it will be worth 4.5 billion, and no matter what happens to him, he'll walk away with 2 billion, even if he jumps out of it early. Is that true?
Oh, it'll be more than that. There, we did an analysis of his lockup agreement, which, if you're not familiar with that, is when insiders, especially principals, take a company public, there's usually a lockup agreement that they enter with the underwriters, so that they will wait a certain period of time before they sell their stock onto the market, so it doesn't depress the price of the stock. That's the theory. I can tell you for sure that none of the Facebook insiders had a lockup agreement. They started selling. I think they started selling on a Friday. By Monday, they were all selling off, and so consequently, the whole stock market is an insider's game, and everybody else is just hanging on for the ride.
It's incredible. Well, recently he got the 175 million he needed just to as the bond before the appeal. He goes to the appeals court, and some guy came up with the money. But then that's because the guy said, "Yeah, well, if he loses, then I'll get 454, won't I? And I'll get the property, not the not the state." And so Trump is in a strange way with all of this. And Devin Nunes is over there running Truth Social. Only thing I've ever seen from Truth Social are his own little things that he puts on there. Don't know anybody who uses it. I can't imagine it's worth anything because, as you pointed out, it isn't anything new. It's built upon your own technology that you invented
Right.
and that you could do this yourself in your back room and it would, it's really no big deal. So how is it worth a market cap in the billions?
You read through the disclosures, and what you read all throughout the disclosure is the fact that there are huge risks in making this investment. And really, at the bottom of this barrel, it is Donald Trump's reputation that is the value that they disclose. So they're saying he's got a lot of risks, and we're relying on him as the front man for this. And I don't think it has anything to do with technology. This has to do with playing market games. And there's a lot of hidden investors in this who are moving a lot of money around to create a liquidity events for themselves. So this is, I think, another very large Ponzi scheme, not unlike the way Facebook was.
Well, even when he was president, what happened? He said that he was being blocked from all these social networking sites and so on and so forth. And they were being mean to him in the media and so on and so forth. So what did he do? He said, "Oh, I'm the president. I'm going to do something about this. Send me your document that states why you were kicked off, of what and when and why and how." And I think at some point there were thousands and thousands of these that had been sent to him. And these people had been demonetized. They'd been taken off of YouTube. They'd been shut down. They'd been shut down for all kinds of reasons. And what did he act like he was doing? He was the hero. He was going to save us. He was going to get a truthful network. And then we find out even Truth Social is built on the same garbage platforms with the same backdoors, with the same control, with the same global engagement center monitoring, all of that, nothing new. So I had to ask myself, was that a trick back then when he tried to get the names of the people who were the radicals in the alternative internet group? And what happened to those people? I haven't heard from any of them since they were taken down. They didn't start up on other sites and stuff in most cases. So is this another trick? And also,
It's not a trick, it's a honeypot.
oh yeah,
It's a honeypot to get the bees to come to the jar of honey and to find out who they are. So it was a great way to gather data on your opposition.
that's what I'm afraid of. But what I'm afraid of even more in Dante's tradition, there's 9 layers of hell. You got to 17 layers of hell. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about those layers? Because in one of them, you sent a text message, you sent one word, and I went, "Oh no, you must be kidding." If
Yeah.
that's true, then a lot of other dominoes fall in place. And tell us about that, the Shell Company Road to Hell.
Well, the one thing we've learned how to do is discover the interlocking relationships. In other words, how two different parties with vested interests support each other. And in some cases, one interest will say, I own the other interest. And in another case, it's exactly the opposite. So you can go back through the disclosures of their filings on Companies House in the UK and the SEC in the United States and FINRA, the supposed regulatory body for American brokers, and you can start seeing how these relationships fit together. And before we even get to the interlocking relationships, just looking at Trump's broker and his lawyer for this transaction not only raises red flags, but actually was the opening for which we discovered the British Treasury in the back end of this, 17 layers deep. And the one very questionable party is Trump's lawyer, Nelson Mullins Riley Scarborough LLP. And as we have now learned, all of our lawyers, and I think probably without exception, are in one way or another tied to the British Crown in the Inner Temple in London, and our court system is as well. So if we look at the background of that firm, we see 3 notable alumni. One is Marco Rubio, 2 is Trey Gowdy, and 3 is a guy named Philip Latter. Now, had you ever heard of Philip Latter? I had not either. But what we determined in the early days of the Clinton administration, he was the U.S. ambassador to the Court of St. James in London, and he was associated with the Pilgrim Society. And he also had worked prior to that with Sir James Goldsmith, another prominent member of the Pilgrim Society, along with the Rothschilds. So what we see here is that firm, through this really influential partner, um, set the culture, set the tone of ethics for that entire firm, and that usually carries down to the minions, because sooner or later the minions have to be schooled on when to look the other way. And so we see the Pilgrim Society embedded in Trump's law firm. And then we look at their broker, uh, E.F. Hutton. Now, that's an interesting firm, which we've all heard of because we all have heard their propaganda over the years if you're a baby boomer. And that is when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. And there's a whole string of ads. We actually linked to that in the research. Uh, so he used a firm that Americans, older Americans, know intrinsically, and so there's apparently a high level of trust in that brand name. So that's the one they went with. Well, if we look at E.F. Hutton, this is a reformed E.F. Hutton. It's newly minted as of 2021, and then we start looking under the covers of who bought that brand name, and we see a whole string of owners that march right back to the British Crown, the British government, and the monarchy in England. Direct connections all the way back. And that's the 17 layers. So that's not normal. Normally, the bad guys are buried 2, 3, 4 deep, 5 deep sometimes, but 17. This is obviously a group that a mechanism that nobody wanted Americans to know. And a prominent name in the names of the companies is Kingswood. Now, that may mean nothing to an American. Kingswood. Okay, fine, it's a name. But that name, Kingswood, goes all the way back to William the Conqueror when he established England. And it literally means property of the king. So they're playing games with their names. And the Kingswood Holdings. So there's layers in this. I'll go Benchmark Investments LLC is the brokerage license that E.F. Hutton used for all of the financing of the Trump deal. Then underneath them is Kingwood Capital Markets, then Kingswood Holdings Limited, then Kingswood USA, then Kingswood Holdings Limited, which is quoted on the stock market in London as a high risk type of venture. And then owning them is KPI Nominees Limited. And then there's Kingswood Property Finance Limited Partnership. And then there's this little obscure company above them called Gamage LLP. It's got one controlling shareholder who's a guy by the name of Gary Spencer Wilder. And it took us a while to find his picture, but we found one finally. And then controlling Gamage LLP is Coutts Bank, which obviously came to the fore when we were studying
DeSantis.
DeSantis, yeah, and DeSantis' sister's mysterious death in London. And then above them, there's this group that's controlling the Coutts Bank in a certain way called Lombard North Central Public Limited Company. And Lombard North Central Public Limited Company is controlled by NatWest Group PLC. And then this was an education for me. I did not realize that NatWest, which is a very well-known bank in the UK and in really the British Commonwealth, is wholly owned by the British Treasury and the British government. Now, I never knew that. It's not a private company. It's a public company run by the Crown. And the stated owner in the financial reports of Coutts Bank and Lombard is the British Treasury. And so we know the British Treasury is controlled by the British Pilgrim Society and their 24-point plan to annex America. So there we see the ultimate controllers of the Trump financing.
What about NatWest?
NatWest, I mentioned them. NatWest,
Okay. Explain to people who NatWest really is.
It's essentially the British government. The British government's bank is wholly controlled by the British Treasury.
And the Scottish National used to be called the
They
Scottish
used to be called Royal Bank of Scotland.
Royal Bank of Scotland. That's it.
Right.
So imagine that. Now let me see if I got this right. I tried not to fall asleep as I went down the 17 steps into hell.
I know
But
it was hard.
down
to
at the
go through
bottom,
them, so.
who's down there? The British monarchy.
Right.
Because no matter what anyone tells you, the British monarchy controls the parliament and they control all aspects of the Commonwealth, period. And if you think otherwise, you just don't know history.
Right.
But the point is that they are controlled by the her Privy Council, who are generally
not the Privy Council, the Pilgrims.
Pilgrims, who I'm going to say they're Pilgrim Society members.
Some are Privy Council, but Privy Council is too big of a group.
That's right.
It's a subset of those, and they're probably Privy Councilors, but the ultimate group is the Pilgrim Society.
And that's the group that is inside of the Privy Council called the Executive Council. And you don't even have to be a member of the Privy Council or the Parliament or anything else to be a member of the Executive Council, the Privy Council, which is the monarch's private bankers and advisors. And I bet every one of them is a pilgrim, but you'd never know that because they don't tell anybody about their meetings and they don't take notes. So the point is,
we do. I mean, I don't want to put a too fine a point on this, but we do know who these pilgrims are.
Oh, I know you do.
It's not like they're hidden.
Right.
And in fact, the more they come out of the woodwork, the less fuzzy their participation is.
And this led right back to them. So if someone had the ability to do the research that you and the miners do, they would have been able to follow this right back and find out that what we've been saying for years and years, that the Pilgrim Society have had this plan, and it's a 200-year plan, and they're doing a pretty darn good job of implementing every point of the plan. And now, let's see if I got this right. Trump is basically giving leverage to the crown through this deal,
right,
which will make him $2 billion minimum, according to the prognostications, but may make him much more, as you pointed out.
Well, Trump has agreed to this lockup agreement, which on the surface is quite common among insiders. But we actually had people looking at the lockup agreement this morning, and it's got a massive hole in it. And that relates to this SPAC that raised the money for him called Digital World Acquisitions Corp. And it's a curious name, but in the end, Trump has an ability to liquidate his stock at any point in which Digital World Acquisitions Corp, which is now just a shareholder in Trump Media, anytime that World Acquisitions Corp would choose to sell its stock or liquidate, Trump could liquidate immediately his holdings in Trump Media. So we have this third party, ultimately controlled by the British Treasury, holding a huge carrot in front of Trump it's basically a bailout. It's a what's the way that somebody can backdoor their way out of something?
Golden parachute.
It's kind of like a golden parachute. Anytime they want to trigger an event to let Trump liquidate, all they have to do is liquidate this Digital World Acquisitions Corp, which is ultimately funded by the City of London.
Now, one of two things must be going on. Either they must have some insider information, or they're real stupid. Because Trump lost with Truth Social, what was it, 35 or 53, some huge amount of millions of dollars last year. He didn't make any money off this, but somehow then he gets a market cap of $1 billion. I think, what did they say the market cap on this was? Some huge amount of money.
I don't know, 3 or 4 billion.
For why? Why? What's that based upon? And then you got the royal crown. Those that makes Trump, in my mind, a possible crown agent, and it shows that the Brits control him. I don't want a president that's controlled by the Brits, and that he's doing secret deals with them that are hidden in 17 layers of shill companies with fake names, subsuming other American names, which they always do. The Brits always subsume some American name, E.F. Hutton, and wait, E.F. Hutton died, and by the way, they died miserably because they were a pathetic company,
Well,
and you know
they liquidated in the bank bailout of 2008 because of the subprime mortgage debacle that they helped create.
exactly, they were completely complicit, and so it were just these are monstrous people. So Trump is aligned with the monstrous people. Well, we thought about Trump and his pharmaceutical big pharma connection. And that just leads to really unsolvable problems. And now with Truth Social, that's going to actually bail him out and give him enough money to fight his fight to be the president again. And, but the question is, whose side is he on? We thought he was on We the People side.
Well, if he doesn't know that these British controllers in the background, he's double dumb.
Double dumb. I like that. So he's not a stable genius. Is that what you're insinuating? If he didn't
I
know.
just can't believe I don't think he's dumb. So I got to believe he knows that this is the deal and that he has bought into it as a way to essentially make a contribution to the great Ponzi scheme. I mean, this is the same kind of thing that Facebook they did with Facebook. They drove the valuation of Facebook into over $100 billion before they went public, and this was
Hang on a
Goldman
second.
Sachs.
Well, the bottom line here for me, Michael, is Trump got the Miller Act notice. It went
Yes.
through Jim Jordan. It went to his office. We had confirmation from two sources inside of the White House that he saw the Miller Act notice, which proved the social networking was stolen from Leader Technology, i.e., your company, the invention, the source code, everything was all stolen. He knows that. Therefore, is it possible at all that he might not know that he is parked on stolen technology, your stolen technology?
Well, I think anything's possible. We don't know what we don't know, but we've certainly made every effort humanly possible to make sure he did know. We do know he had a lot of vultures flying around him during his administration. I do know at one point the chief of staff, Kelly, was a really bad guy. And so, therefore, to what extent did the information get to him directly? I don't know that answer for sure, but I do know that the documentation was in the White House. We have those signatures.
I find
So,
it no coincidence that what saves Trump is what was stolen from you. The secret of social networking under for Trump, the auspices or perhaps the false flag of freedom of speech and not squelching freedom of speech and not squelching your constitutional rights in the Bill of Rights. I mean, he was trying to fly this flag that he's creating a place where everybody can go, and then then what happens? Then one of the people, and people hate it when I say bad things about this person, but anyway, let's just call him one of the biggest technocrats out there, gets a hold of another social networking site and turns it into a free-for-all, as a three-ring circus, a complete cacophony of nonsense, both yelling for free speech and squelching free speech. Isn't it a coincidence that his wealth, his salvation, and what he believes is his tool to get elected is all social networking built upon your platform?
yeah. So, what's interesting about this dynamic is that the Miller Act notice is still alive, and our offer to him, he's not the president now, but he might be, and our offer to have him fund the Miller Act notice and then give a legal license to social networking to every person on the planet as a result is back on the table. I mean, his obviously his financing is stinks, and yet if he signed a deal with us to get this license, he could make everybody legal overnight, and it would totally turn the tables on the existing social networking crowd, which is all using the stolen technology. They know they stole it. They know they stole it from IBM Eclipse Foundation and our former patent attorney James P. Chandler and David Capos, the guy who they placed in there in the U.S. Patent Office to cut the deal with the British, so that the British, through Serco, would examine all American patents to this day, from 2006 on to this day. So the whole economic infrastructure related to intellectual property is completely hosed, and this can start getting it back in place as our government would start choosing to protect the inventors and not protect the thieves.
The British Circle Company, i.e., monarchical crown agents, control social networking, and they have these dummy cardboard cutouts there, just simply so, like any British company, it has its fall companies. They can just eventually drop Facebook and move to some other idiot or whatever. That's
Right.
what they do. That's why they have 17 layers of this, that they can just go, no, that wasn't us. That was Kingswood LLC PC. Although no, that was, and this has happened.
Right.
Mark Malloch Brown came out and said Dominion wasn't involved, and Smartmatic. No, it was Smartmatic LLC. And so
Whoa.
they can stand there and lie to you because why? It didn't have an LLC on it.
Correct.
Smartmatic had nothing to do with
The game they play.
it's the British way, and they learned it from the Jesuits and from the Venetians and from the Sogdians and from the Radnites and the Babylonian bankers. It's the same old story. But you just had you said to me, "All right, Doug, you got any clairvoyant impressions? Who put up the money for Trump?" I would have said, "I have no idea. Who would be that stupid? That's insane. The only person who would ever put up money for that would be the globalists, who have already selected him and know that Truth Social is going to go no matter what. Otherwise,
Right.
they're not going to put up all that money for the IPO." So I
That's
have no
exactly
idea.
right.
I would have never said, "Oh, well, of course, it's the Queen's." We always call it the Queen's golden share. In this case, the King's golden share, or the British monarchy's golden share. And that's basically what's here, as well as you pointed out to me and Tyler the other day, there are so many ways out of this contract. He is so covered. You've never seen so many, basically what I would call legal loopholes put in it ever before. And it's completely inordinate what they've done. And they've hidden the funding, and the funding is actually British. So to say that you think Britain, where there is no free speech, is going to give America free speech through Truth Social or through
Right.
Trump media, you must
No,
be
this
joking.
this 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 comes full circle back to the Imperial Press Conference of 1909, when they formed the Empire Press Union, and they have had a concerted effort to control world press from London. And they're using social networking technology to be able to do that. They can push a message out, and it can be on every PC on the planet in seconds. And that has been their dream all along. That's why they financed RCA. That's why they financed NBC. That's why they took control of CBS. Do we think those are American companies? No, they're controlled by Fleet Street in the city of London by the Pilgrims, and that has been their plan from day one. They had Rockefeller cooperating. They had Andrew Carnegie cooperating. They had the president, Nicholas Murray Butler of Columbia University, cooperating, and he was actually the Pilgrims' president in the United States for 24 years. And this is just in the lifetime of our parents. So we are hosed as a republic because we don't realize the financial mechanisms that have entangled themselves in our life. Now, are we finished? I don't think so, because I think as these demons are identified, we tell these demons to get behind us, and then we will start seeing the angels start to step in and assist us in taking back our republic.
Since the time of the British theft through Marconi of Tesla's inventions, those inventions which can be used for good or ill, but unfortunately have been used and weaponized, including whether you want to call it radio broadcasting, the telegraph, the television, the internet,
Right.
wireless, all of it, all of it, all of it can be made into a weapon, and they have made it into a weapon, and it's always been out of Britain. So, in fact, I'm going to put it in a nutshell and say that Trump has simply been brought into their 200-year plan to control all media, and that it's British controlled, of course, and that essentially, when you're talking about this, there really hasn't been a name for it. You might call it, I don't think you could come up with a name, big digital, anything that is electronic
Big
from
tech.
what big tech. There you go. Big tech is the deal. So he is basically a puppet of big tech. He might be dumb as dumb to the dumb power, because he doesn't know really where the financing came from, but I doubt that. And then it makes me say, but wait, Big Pharma started in Britain through the Purbright Institute. We've given all that facts, and he became the hero of Big Pharma. So is this consistent with the fact that he's been a fraud all along? I don't know, but it certainly raises those questions. And if it goes back to the Brits and he doesn't know it, then he's too dumb. He's being used. And if he does know it, then he's just waiting for the king to give him his Order of the Garter, or the Order of the British Empire. And for him, as a Scottish man, a true Highlander, that he actually, gets recognized by the crown, because that's what people like Hillary Clinton and Bill
Well,
Clinton
that's
think.
that's the same way they courted Andrew Carnegie.
Exactly.
He was actually a dual citizen. He was a citizen of Scotland and the U.S., and that's what Lillian Scott Troy worked to expose in 1905, 1906. And they used Carnegie and his wealth through the steel business in the U.S. to finance a lot of the development of libraries all over the United States. It wasn't because he was being magnanimous, and I think that's one of the biggest lies that we've learned in our lifetime. He was using it because back then the international rooms and the newspaper rooms in the libraries was the main source for a lot of people of international news, and that's what they wanted to control. So at the same time, they ordered the Pilgrim Society specifically organized Carnegie to take the libraries and to control the libraries and publishing. They instructed Rockefeller in publishing, and they instructed J.P. Morgan to go out and buy editorial control of all the major newspapers in the U.S. And so here we see way back in 1905, 1910, 1915, already they're consolidating their controls. And so when internet came along, and then our technology of social networking came along, it was just another step in their long time plan to control the communication that we on Main Street have, and then to manipulate our way of thinking through mind control, through propaganda. And they've done a pretty good job of it, I would say. But we're starting to wake up. And with that, we are starting to see these demons, and starting to see these demons specifically in certain people. And those are the ones that we as patriots need to start telling the devil to get behind us.
But now we have to also give ourselves a little bit of leeway, because if he's a fraud, he's a good one, and he met exactly the prerequisites that the United Intelligence groups created as their basically their security report before he ran for office, called the Paradox of Progress. And it basically said that anybody running against Hillary Clinton who ran on a populist note, said America first, was a nationalist, was a businessman that said he's going to bring back business to America. I mean, they spelled out exactly what he was what could win.
Right.
And he became that. But perhaps he got sullied in the process, or perhaps he knew all along that what he was going to do, that he claims that he saved 100 million lives, which is complete nonsense. and doesn't take responsibility for the other millions that happened from during his administration. These kind of things are something we have to question and say, what does this mean? And at this point, I am still confounded by everything that comes from Trump's mouth, Trump's camp. I watched the executive orders that he wrote while he was the president, and they were amazing. He actually took our list of 12 things that we wanted done and started working on all of them. How long did it take Biden to abnegate every action that Trump took while he was the president? About a day. He literally took the executive orders of Trump and negated them. Okay. So was that part of a plan? Was that kabuki theater? I don't know.
Plan. It was the British plan to take over. They specifically used the term annex America, and that accusation actually appeared in newspapers in 1908, 1907, and Lillian Scott Troy was a big factor in publicizing that. And at that time, she was working for a newspaper distributor in San Francisco and knew William Randolph Hearst. And Hearst had met with W.T. Stead and was schooled on the government by journalism concept. But then Hearst went his own way and started running for office on his own. So what we see here is a very carefully crafted plan that they have carried out faithfully ever since that time. And now we're seeing the end result of that effort.
Well, the question comes down to me, is he simply a useful idiot, or is he in on it? And if he is a useful idiot, I will give him the benefit of the doubt, because it took me all my life and then working with you for us to discover these things. And literally we've been preaching these things for years, and people are only now years later waking up and saying, oh my gosh. And so maybe he's one of those people who believes what he sees on TV, or maybe he's just not that smart. Or
I know something in the back of me still thinks that might be the case. It's hard to believe that, but he doesn't have the time, I'm sure, to spend a lot of time doing this.
Oh no, I disagree with that totally. And I don't know if I can be heard. He is the president of the country. He is self-identified as being a very stable genius. I'm just a little trad wife out here in suburbia, and I figured it out. And with all the intelligence and the people around him, no, he knows this. That's my opinion.
Well, there you have it. A voice from on high came and told us the reality that we are stumbling.
Yeah, well, then we're into the issue of can a person repent? And if he can, then maybe we'll give him some space. We got to see what he does.
Well, look at him and Bibi Netanyahu. They're in bed together as close as anyone can be. And, it's Israel first. It's not America first.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what Tyler just said is
Israel is, that's the other confusing thing about this whole Israeli thing. When you say Israel, you say Britain. Britain controls Israel, has from day one. The Rothschilds have been funding Zionism, British Zionism, from day one in the mid-1800s.
Jacob Rothschild was on Genie Oil. Genie Oil is Golan Heights, the invasion of and occupation of Golan Heights. But then look for the oil offshore, which I've been pointing out now for some time. Look for the Leviathan and the British company, British Petroleum. That's what that was all about, all British. And notice that they haven't come in politically to say a single word. Why? Because it's their oil. They don't want anyone to know.
Right.
They are the sneakiest group of people. But here's the deal. I have a degree in history, in focus in British history. All right. And I can tell you, studying the kings and queens of Britain was the worst debauchery in human history, and the clearest path of demonic worship and depredation of humanity that I've ever seen anywhere in history, except for Caligula. And that, you can explain it because what are the British? They're basically Rome reincarnated.
Babylon.
Yeah, and they're Babylon, and that's what Rome is. Rome is Babylon.
Right.
And so, yes, Britain is Babylon. Matter of fact, who was it that said that it's called New Babylon?
Disraeli, the future Prime Minister of England, said that.
So-
London is modern Babylon, present day Babylon.
Rudolf Steiner pointed out that you can call all the combined demons of Babylon mammon, the worship of money, because mammon actually means Satan and all the other nasty words for like the biggest and baddest of the devils. Well, the British have been worshiping mammon for through their bankers, and which has been
Since
continuous
1067.
since 1067, and all the way back. They picked up the habits all the way back to the
Right.
to Babylon, where and now we're told in the apocalypse it's the whore of Babylon that rides the dragon. And who is that? That would be the British monarchy. Okay, it's the city of London, but worse than that, it's not just the city of London. It's this insider group that Michael has pointed out in Truth History, 600 gigabytes of proof of everything we're telling you. And now we're going to add this as more proof of where the money came from to support Truth Social and this IPO that is going to basically save Trump, which then could possibly make it that he could make it back into the presidency. And we're going to have to listen to what the voice in the sky said. It is very possible that he's nothing more than the Pied Piper leading us down the path of perdition.